guys. This week we're going to be reading a passage called Robotics. Very near and dear to my heart. I'm very excited about that. We're actually going to be working on the skill of sequence of events. So there's going to be a Zoom meeting this afternoon talking about a sequence of events with a different story, and then we're going to actually be working on that throughout the week on this one, and then there will be a little quiz on Friday over sequence of events as well. This passage, Robotics, is an informational text, which means it's nonfiction. It's going to be something that gives us information about something, right? And there will be a little writing prompt at the end of the week as well basically, how do robots solve problems? So, as we read this, I want you guys to think about how robots actually solve problems throughout, all right? I'm going to read this to you. You're more than welcome to read it on your own if you like, but that way everybody has access to the text itself. So we're going to go ahead and start this with robotics today. So I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys this quick story, all right? All right. Working robots. There are a lot of places we'd like to go, but can't. Dangerous places, distant places, inaccessible places. We can explore these places by sending in robots. Now, this word right here, inaccessible, it's highlighted for you guys. It's one of your vocabulary words. But I think about what clues in the text help me know what the meaning of inaccessible means. We just read those first 3 sentences, or first 4 sentences there, 5 sentences, wherever we're at. What clues in the text help me understand the meaning of inaccessible? So the text says that there are a lot of places people would like to go, but can't. This is a clue that inaccessible means places that cannot be reached. You see that there? All right. I'm going to continue on. These mechanical adventurers have computer brains that don't feel fear or panic. Killer levels of radioactivity? Pff, no problem. The black airless vacuum of space? Pff, the crushing pressure of tons of ocean water? Tiny paths through ancient rock? Bring it on, say these brave new robots. Andros 5, for example, handles live bombs for the Baltimore, Maryland Police Department. Rosie was built by a team of Carnegie Mellon University and the Alaska Volcano Conservatory. Oh, wow, sorry. Was built by a team of I was reading between books. Mellon University in Pennsylvania. It can safely roll into highly contaminated nuclear facilities and wash them down or take them apart. Houdini might be considered Rosie's baby brother. This robot can enter hazardous waste storage tanks to clean them. You want me to go where? In 1994, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, teamed up with scientists at Carnegie Mellon University and the Alaskan Volcano Conservatory. They sent a robot to explore an active volcano. Scientists explore volcanoes to learn about how they work and how to read the warning signs of a volcanic eruption. An 8-legged robot named Dante II climbed down into Alaska's Mount Spur, 90 miles west of Anchorage. Dante's job was to explore the crater floor and take gas and soil samples. It was something that no human could have done. Now, I looked back down here, and I'm going to kind of pause really quickly because I know that my first 3 questions are what I'm answering today, guys. Right here on question 2, we say, explain how technology and humans work together to guide Dante to the crater floor. Well, I just read about Dante. Okay, so I'm assuming that my answer is going to come from the next couple things here. Okay, I will kind of highlight that as we go on, so that way it kind of help you out with your answers. I know that we're not doing number 3. I think that we're only doing number 2. We're only doing numbers 1 and 3. I'll change that in here. But number 3, how is Dante similar to a human? I'll go ahead and give you guys bonus points if you do number 2 as well. Okay? So, moving back to this passage, we're going to go ahead and read a little bit more about Dante here. All right? Dante's designers knew the descent would be very tricky. The north wall of the volcano has a 1,000-foot, 305-meter drop. The south wall is steep and covered with rocks. Designers gave Dante servo motors, mechanisms that help Dante's main computer. Servo motors, by the way, are mechanisms that help Dante's main computer. That's why there's a comma kind of in that area right there. that helps see what that actually means. They're mechanisms that help Dante's main computer. The servo motors allow Dante to raise and lower each leg as the robot climbs over rocky surfaces. Dante's foot pads and legs also have sensors. The sensors keep it from crashing into rocks or falling into holes. But even with all this technology, nobody trusted Dante to make its own decisions. Dante was connected to its human team by satellite and the internet. Its main computer analyzed every step before it allowed the robot to go forward. Eventually, Dante reached the floor of the crater safe and sound. Kind of thinking about number 2 kind of in that. So if you look at this picture really quickly, Dante II makes its way beside a river in Alaska. That is a picture of what Dante looked like there, right? As Dante gathered samples, the robot's cameras sent a 3-dimensional view to the computer screens in front of the scientists at the volcano's rim. And thanks to something called Virtual Environment Vehicle Interface software, the scientists felt as if they were right there in the volcano with Dante. Okay? Why did Dante need cameras? All right? I want you guys to, I guess really just think about that because I can't really have you guys answer or raise your hands here. But think about why Dante might have carried cameras or might have needed cameras with him, all right? But a near-perfect robotic adventure ended in a way familiar to anyone who's ever climbed a steep hill. Dante slipped in some loose dirt on the way out of the volcano and could not climb out. The scientist team had to call in a helicopter to rescue the robot. All right, unfortunately, no one can fly to Mars to save robots that get into trouble. NASA landed twin rover robots, Spirit and Opportunity, on Mars in 2004. The robots were sent to explore the planet, collect soil and rock samples, and take pictures. Spirit and Opportunity are all alone on the red planet. They are millions of miles from Earth, and Mars is a far more hostile place than the inside of a volcano. Mars is very cold, averaging negative 67 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 55 degrees Celsius. Its strong winds whip red dust across the rocky surface of the planet. The rover's connection to NASA is tricky too. Communication between the robot and NASA scientists are sent through millions of miles of space. The information travels via computer connections to orbiting spacecraft and antennas on Earth. As the rovers roll across Mars, any helpful messages from their human teammates on Earth are delayed by several minutes. So the rovers are designed to make many of their own choices. They are given jobs, but it is up to them to figure out how to get them done. The rovers also have a survival instinct programmed into them. It helps them adapt to unexpected situations. Okay? So think about this. Why do you think that engineers gave a robot a survival instinct and allowed it to make its own decisions? All right? Well, this robot is on Mars. We can't exactly go to Mars to fly, right? There's such a large distance between Earth and Mars. Scientists can't control every movement without a long delay, okay? It's kind of like me giving you guys this lesson right now and telling you to answer questions and all that, but no matter what, you're still going to have a delay because I'm doing this on Sunday night. You're probably watching this on Monday morning, okay? The survival instinct will help the robots make decisions that will ensure their survival. That's why scientists have to make those robots, give them the opportunity to move around on their own, right? Looking at these pictures, you might have seen them. If not, you can look up the Spirit and Opportunity on YouTube, and you can actually watch videos of those rovers roving the surface of Mars. It's really cool. The exploration rovers collect rock and soil samples and take photographs on Mars. All right. The incredible shrinking bot. Scientists at the California Institute of Technology are working on the designs for a tiny snake bot to travel through the human gastrointestinal system, the stomach and intestines. Blech. As a doctor looks down a patient's throat for swelling or other signs of illness, the snake bot would look at the patient's insides. A camera and sensors would help the snake bot gather medical information for doctors. The snake bot's information would help doctors diagnose disease. It may even help in therapy. Guys, they actually have something similar to this. It's not necessarily a robot, but there are actual things that doctors do called endoscopy and all that, where they can actually send a tube with a camera down your throat and they can actually look at the insides. It's kind of a little bit interesting. Yeah. But without question, the tiniest and most daring medical robots are being designed in Sweden. The Swedish microbots are smaller than the hyphen between micro and bots in the sentence. The microbots are made of silicon. The silicon is coated in gold and then covered in polymer, a plastic compound that can shrink or swell. This allows the pieces of the robot to bend so it can pick things up and move them around. Hey, look at that. Miniature robots from New Mexico's Sandia Laboratory also explore tight spots. I don't know about you, but that doesn't look very miniature right there, but could be smaller than what we're actually seeing. The Swedish microbots are designed to operate in all kinds of fluids. The research team imagines a time in the near future when the microbots can be injected into the human bloodstream. Doctors hope the microbots will be able to clean up the plaque that causes heart attacks and break through the blood clots that cause strokes. The microbots could also remove bacteria. One day they may even fix disease-causing cells. In the old sci-fi movie Fantastic Voyage, 5 scientists in their submarine, the Proteus, were shrunk to microscopic size. They were injected into the bloodstream of a fellow scientist. Their mission was to reach a blood clot in their friend's brain and save his life. What Hollywood imagined as movie fantasy in 1966 is becoming science fact. Okay? You guys probably didn't grow up on this, but I grew up on a show called The Magic School Bus. You may have read the books in first grade. Maybe you've even seen the shows. But there are several episodes where they actually do shrink down and go into the human body. So now they're actually saying that they're inventing small robots that can do the same thing. Pretty cool in my opinion. All right. Artsy robots. The Sony Corporation's Oreo robot took center stage, literally, in March 2004 when it conducted the Tokyo, Japan Philharmonic Orchestra. Curio, sorry, it's not Oreo, can perform many tasks. But Sony, a Japanese electronics company, wanted to show off the robot's ability to control its motions. Curio held a conductor's baton and led the human musicians through Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. Japanese automaker Toyota has also proudly produced a musical robot. The Toyota robot can play When You Wish Upon a Star on a trumpet. Toyota says it hopes to soon have an entire robot band ready to belt out tunes. I'd venture to say you could probably find that video on YouTube of the Toyota robot playing When You Wish Upon a Star. Probably a cool thing to maybe go back and look at that. Who's got the ball? Robots aren't all work and no play. On May 4th, 2003, robots from around the world played soccer in the International Robo Cup, Federation's American Open. The event was held at Carnegie Mellon University. I've heard of that before, probably from earlier on in the passage. Hiroki Kitano established RoboCup in 1997. He hoped that it would lead to the development of robotic soccer players good enough to play against human athletes. That first 1997 tournament was a little chaotic. The robots had a tough time finding the ball. They struggled to recognize their teammates and figure out which goal they were supposed to aim for. As engineers improved the robots' vision systems, play improved. By the 2001 games, the 8-inch, 20-centimeter tall, wheeled robots in the small league were doing better. They played 2 10-minute halves on a field the size of a ping-pong table. Their soccer ball was an orange golf ball. The Sony Corporation sends its ABO team to the Open. Most RoboCup players are two-legged, but the ABOs are little robotic dogs. The ABOs kick the ball by getting down on their elbows. This position allows them to use both front paws. Play is slow and a bit goofy. The ABOs are, after all, still amateurs. All right, so look at this picture right here. We can actually see the ABOs. They're robotic dogs, essentially, that they're doing that. That helps me get a better understanding of what I just read in this section because I can actually visualize it and see that those look like dogs that are actually playing soccer. I kind of see over here, we have kind of what looks like a red team and maybe a black or a blue team over on the other side. I can't really see if that's black or blue. In this picture, it's a little bit small. But you can kind of see now exactly what that RoboCup teams look like. Okay? Especially the Sony there with the ABOs. All right? Moving forward, thinking robots. Bertram, your robot butler, rolls into the living room and says in a flat voice, "Dinner is served." You're slouched down in the corner of the couch. "I'm not hungry, thanks," you answer. Your parents or friends might ask if you feel all right or if there's anything they can get you. But Bertram has no reaction. He simply rolls back into the kitchen without a word and puts away the uneaten dinner. Bertram has understood your reply, but he can't respond to your tone of voice or your body language. And most people, Alice and Bruce discovered, really don't like that about robots. Bruce is a researcher at the Robotics Institute of Carnegie Mellon University. What do you kind of think about Carnegie Mellon University right now? Do you think that they probably know a thing or two about robots? I don't know. I've seen that particular university pop up throughout this whole story. Maybe, in my mind, they're one of the leading universities on robots. Bruce is part of the Institute's social robot program. The program studies ways to improve interaction between humans and robots. In Bruce's experiment, a laptop computer was attached to a robot. The robot stood in the hall of a college classroom building and asked passing students questions. Sometimes the laptop screen would be blank, but sometimes it showed a face with a range of expressions. Look at that picture right there. I'm assuming that picture is the one that's one of those social robots at the Carnegie Mellon Institute or Mellon University. Bruce was not really interested in the students' answers to the questions. What she was interested in was the students' willingness to stop and talk to the robot. She found that more students responded to the robot when it had a face. Like Bruce, others who work with robots have realized that humans prefer robots they can relate to. They have developed robots that can show human emotions, such as anger, happiness, embarrassment, and sadness. All right? How do you think, so up here we kind of heard Bertram, the robot butler, the guy that brought you your food whenever you were, hungry, even if you weren't hungry. If he was able to respond to a tone or a voice or body language, how do you think his response would be, or how do you think his response would be? Okay, so based on what Bruce said, if that robot had a face or had some way of communicating back, I think that more students would or more people would probably be more receptive to those robots instead of them being pretty flat. Okay? All right, moving on. I feel, therefore I am. Kismet the robot was designed and built by Cynthia Brazel, a researcher at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. The lab is home to many kinds of interesting robots, but Kismet is not like the others. This robot can display emotion. Kismet's lips can pout or smile. His eyebrows can arch and his ears can wiggle. A combination of clever computer programming and sophisticated engineering has given Kismet the ability to actually respond to a stimulus, another vocabulary word there, in an essential, recognizable way. If you say words of praise to Kismet, he will smile. Bright colors also earn a smile. So does his own reflection in the mirror. But raise your voice and scold Kismet, and his lips will sink into a frown. And when Kismet becomes overstimulated by too much noise or movement, he will withdraw, lowering his eyes and taking a kind of robotic time out. Kismet is lovable, not just because of his blue golf ball-sized eyes. Kismet interacts with people and shows he has understood them through his facial expressions. His success in relating to people may be reflected in the fact that everyone refers to Kismet as he instead of it. There is a picture of Kismet right there. Kismet was developed to interact with people. All right? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking that may be a little bit creepier. That might remind you of some FNAF, some Five Nights at Freddy's action right there. I kind of agree with that statement there, but it's kind of cool that robots can actually respond to stimulus, which means that they can respond to the things that are around them or things that people are saying or doing that are surrounding them, all right? Next one, heads will roll. Man, if you thought that was a little bit creepy, you might think that this is even more creepy. Look at this right here. His name is David Hansen. In 2003, he showed up at a science conference in Denver, Colorado, carrying a head. The head was backless and bald and bolted to a piece of wood, but it was still pretty. It had high cheekbones, blue eyes, and smooth rubber polymer skin. Hansen set the head down on a table. He plugged it into his laptop computer and tapped a few keys. Everyone stopped to watch what would happen. Moments later, the head began to move, turning right and left. It smiled, sneered, and frowned. Hansen, a robot scientist at the University of Texas at Dallas, called the head K-Bot. K-Bot can mimic the major muscles in a human face. It has 24 servo motors under its specially developed skin. Digital cameras in its eyes watch the people who are curiously studying it, and software helps it to imitate what it sees. Looking at those guys, okay, this one's definitely, this picture right over here is definitely the real one, but look at those other kind of faces there. A little bit creepy, right? Definitely would not be able to pick those out from afar and say that those are robotic faces. That's our future. A little bit scary, I know. All right. Ooh, that picture right there. This is another one. I don't know about that. All right, going back. Hansen has built several robotics heads, but he isn't the only one. In Tokyo, Hiroshi Kobayashi's face robots, as he calls them, are also eerily lifelike. So is the head sitting in Fumio Hara's robotics lab at the Science University of Tokyo. Hara's robotic head can scan the face of the person standing in front of it. Then it can compare the face to those in its memory bank. Once the robot identifies which of 6 emotions the person is expressing, tiny machines under the robot's skins remold its face to mimic what it sees. Okay, so this picture, Fumio Hara poses with a skeleton of one of his face robots. The face robot's network of wires and pulleys is covered with a flexible skin. Which is this right here? What do you guys think about that? Leave me a comment down below. Say what you think about this particular pairing right here. I know what I'm kind of thinking. I'm curious to hear what you guys are. All right, for Hara, heads are just the beginning. His goal is to design a robot that is interactive, friendly, and most of all, familiar. But do we really want a robot that looks just like us? Maybe not. In the late 1970s, Japanese robot engineer Masahiro Mori did some fascinating research on how human beings interact with robots. Mori discovered that people like friendly-looking mechanical robots, but Mori found that when robots looked too much like humans, people stopped liking them. Mori called this sudden shift the uncanny valley, the place where people begin to feel uncomfortable with human-like robots. Experience is the best teacher. Engineers have begun building robots that can adapt to their environment. They operate on what are called patterns of behavior. Most of these robots are quite small and behave a lot like insects. Insects don't really think. They rely on their senses and instincts to find food and survive. Like insects, the little insect bots have been equipped for sensing their physical environment, but they have not been pre-programmed with any data about their environment, so when they are first turned on, they're brainless. But the insect bot's computers are programmed with separate layers of behavior. The behavior layers help an insect bot learn about its environment. The more it learns, the more it can do. Once the insect bot has mastered one layer of behavior, the next higher layer of behavior kicks in. With each layer, the insect bot gets better at dealing with the world around it. At MIT, James McLurkin has built robot ants using these layers of behavior. But McLurkin's ant bots are even more amazing because they are able to signal each other when they find ant bot food. In other words, the ant bots learn how to work together to achieve a shared goal. The ultimate ant bot, however, is yet to come, one that can communicate with real ants. Guys, this kind of makes me think of a certain movie that came out a couple years ago with something that's now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If anybody knows what that is, send me a comment down below as well. All right, I believe, says Hans Moravec, a research professor at Carnegie Mellon, that robots with human intelligence will be common during the next 50 years. Certainly, the Center for Intelligence Systems at Vanderbilt University in Tennessee shows how close we are getting. The CIS has developed a robot called Isaac for Intelligent Soft Arm Control. Isaac can express emotions and has both short-term and long-term memory. And because this robot's brain has been designed to think much like ours, Isaac may soon actually be able to dream. It seems almost certain that in the future we will share our planet with robots. What we build in the lab will have the potential to become as smart as we are. It may even improve upon its own technology. Will we love these robots or fear them? Time will tell. All right, guys. Wow. I know that there's one more page there, but I'm not going to read that to you. A little bit interesting information right here about robots and all about robotics, all right? So after reading this, I want you to answer questions 1 and 3 on this passage. There will also be one on Wednesday where you guys will be answering more questions. I will tell you what those are come Wednesday. I'm not going to reread it to you, but if you're watching this on Wednesday, up above you will actually see some the questions that I want you to answer, all right? So, number 1, looking here, support the following main idea with details from the text. So last week we worked on main idea. We were doing that. This week I told you we're going to focus more on sequence of events. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday as we approach it. But robots are especially beneficial for dangerous tasks. What have we read so far? And I'll give you a hint. It was at the beginning of the story. That shows that robots are especially beneficial for dangerous tasks. All right. I want you to look at some of look at the answers, or look at the text and find at least 2 details that show why robots are especially beneficial for dangerous tasks. And number 3, how was Dante similar to a human? So Dante was that robot that they sent down in the volcano in Alaska, all right? How was he similar to a human, all right? This is going to be worth a total of 6 points, 2 points per, or 3 points per question. All right, I want to see what you guys can do. I know it says 10 right there, but I'm going to change it. All right? If you have any questions,